So this video will be exploring the poetry of Peter Skrzynecki, specifically the poem Migrant Hostel. We are looking at the forms and features of the poetry as well as its representation of belonging. First thing I'll do is read the poem out loud. Migrant Hostel, Parks, 1949 to 51. No one kept count of the comings and goings. Arrivals of newcomers in busloads from the station, sudden departures from adjoining blocks that left us wondering who would be coming next. Nationalities sought each other out instinctively, like a homing pigeon circling to get its bearings. Years and named places recognized by accents, partitioned off at night by memories of hunger and hate, or were dying. For over 2 years, we loved like birds of passage, always sensing a change in the weather, unaware of the season, whose track we would follow. At a barrier at the main gate sealed off the highway from our doorstep, as it rose and fell like a finger pointed in reprimand or shame, and daily we passed underneath or alongside it, needing its sanction to pass in and out of our lives that had only begun or were dying. So what is that poem about? It's a vivid description of the early part of the migrant journey, which we know from our understanding of Peter's context he experienced himself. So this is when his family has just come to Australia and they've been moved to a hostel, which is a place that was used to hold the migrants during this time period, which is the next point there. The poem shows that this was an unpleasant and unsettling experience. The migrants are in this state of limbo and belong nowhere. They don't belong to their former country, in Peter's case Poland, and yet they're not completely part of Australian culture and community just yet. They are stuck in this place where they don't really feel any connection to the wider world or community. So now we're going to dive a little bit deeper. We're going to go stanza by stanza. And so, the first stanza. Parks 1949 to 1951. It shows us where it's happening and when. Here we've got that there are too many people coming into this place. And the idea here, the colloquial language, comings and goings, it's quite colloquial in its nature, shows that the constant leaving and arriving idea. It shows a pause, the hyphen, okay, so it's important to consider the use of punctuation. It also shows that these ideas are connected. So these new people that are arrived are anonymous. Skrzynecki doesn't know who they are, showing a lack of belonging to them, if we're going to talk about that. Sudden reinforces how quickly things change and how difficult it is to establish this sense of belonging. So the idea that us, it's inclusive language, that he does have some sense of belonging here, and that's to his immediate family, his mother and his father. So there is hope though, there is still a sense of belonging that is going to develop as we look through this poem, that people found a sense of belonging, a connection with people that had the same culture as them, okay? This idea that it's instinctive, it means it's within yourself, it's an instinct, it's a primal urge, it's a basic human need that we automatically search it. We've obviously got a simile here, the fact that it's to a homing pigeon, which is a bird that knows where its home is, obviously. You take it out away. The homing pigeon knows where it lives, so you take it somewhere and it's able to fly back. And it relates to belonging being instinctive. The simile continues, and this idea of circling to get its boundaries is how the pigeon would circle around to try and figure out a familiar place in order to get back home. So the people are looking for something identifiable in order for them to find their place which they belong. These two lines here list features that might indicate a possibility for common ground and belonging. Okay, if they are in the same place around the same time and they have a similar accent, maybe they can have some ability to belong to one another. So this separation, creating a barrier, that's what the word partition means, okay? So it suggests that. The metaphor here, hunger and hate are actually physical barriers against belonging, okay? So as a result of the hunger and hate, as a result of their experiences, they're unable to belong. We've also got the alliteration. It's harsh, and as we know previously, a lot of the migrants are escaping war-torn countries, so those harsh sounds are supposed to evoke memories of that. So it shows you the time that they've been there, and a wary tone is used. This idea of the birds is continued, okay? They're stuck in their situation, they're travelling towards a destination, but they have no sense of longing because they're in this state of transition. The birds in this poem are used as a metaphor. Okay, again, we've got that hyphen that is a pause as we read, and it explains why the birds are like, why the Skrzynekis are like birds, which we see in this blue part here, because they have no control or understanding of the change that's happening. So this metaphor suggests isolation from the rest of the world. They don't know when they're going to get out of this situation. So we've got this imagery, okay? We can picture what a barrier at the main gate would look like, and it is physically preventing them from finding a place in Australian society. Okay, so that's the same idea there. As it rose and fell like a finger is a simile, obviously, like a finger. It's continued in this use of personification as it points in reprimand or shame. Okay, so the barrier is not just a barrier, it's becoming a symbol, a physical symbol of not belonging. It's also, for them, a mental reminder that they do not belong to anything in the society just yet. And so there's some sort of routine here, that's why the word daily is used, and this feeling of isolation, this feeling of separation is reinforced because they have to pass this barrier every day. And sanction is another word for permission. It means similar things. So that's why it says here that the family feels as though they need permission from the barrier. So the barrier is being personified. Okay, it's a barrier. It can't actually give permission to people. And again, we've got this idea of the transient nature, the temporary nature of their stay at the hostel. Then there's this question here, the way it ends in quite a morbid way. It's a metaphor. Is coming to Australia a beginning or an end in terms of finding somewhere to belong? Okay, so have they made the right choice by coming to Australia? So this poem really explores not belonging and the effect it can have on the individuals, and how not belonging is represented in terms of the migrant experience. Is something that you're really going to have to delve into in your paragraph writing and essays. Thanks for listening. Be sure to listen to the next couple that come up. Thank you.